You're listening to the Jaybird Watching Podcast, the official podcast of jaysjournal.com and fansite.com. We are the official ballroom chat for everything Toronto Blue Jays baseball, from game highlights to rumors and all the stuff in between. Here is your host, Craig Borden, with co-host Jason Lyons and Liz McGuire. Now let's talk some Toronto Blue Jays baseball.
Good Tuesday evening, all you Blue Jays fans out there. I am your host, Craig Borden, on episode 440 of the Jaybird Watching Podcast. What is going on? My most excellent of co-hosts, Jason Lyons.
Well, Craig, it's obviously it's Christmas Eve, which is always a fun night. Most people, I think nowadays probably don't work, or if they do, they work very little on Christmas Eve. So it's kind of the first day. And like I was saying before, I like it when big holidays fall in the middle of the week because of the extra days off. And, we're looking forward to, there's football now on Christmas Day, along with the basketball. And there's World Junior Hockey. It's a good time to have a couple of weeks off. I'm going to be myself. I will be in Maui, and we are going to watch one day of the Century Open at Kapalua. I just found out that kids under 15 are free, and so it's
nice.
Worthwhile for me to buy a day ticket and go and see some of the top PGA players in the world play. So, all good things. And then, of course, over the weekend, we're just getting smashed in the face with baseball stuff.
And I think the key word there is smashed, because it's been a wild week in baseball in general. There's been signings, all sorts of crazy, especially in Blue Jays land. But there is one thing that I think we have to talk about beforehand, and that is the fact that, unfortunately, right before this holiday season, we lose a baseball immortal, a great. That is Ricky Henderson, and I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice if we did not talk about this Blue Jays World Series champion and multiple World Series champion. Jason, tell me what you used to love about watching Ricky Henderson.
Well, he's the greatest leadoff hitter to possibly ever play the game. I was looking at some stats. It's funny, we were out for lunch today, and I was with the kids, and we were looking at some of the stats. And in 1982, the major league team that led the AL, I think it was I'd have to go look it up, but they had 142 stolen bases, and Ricky Henderson had 135. That's the level that this dude was at. I also saw a really hilarious video. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but Ken Griffey Jr. and Ricky Henderson shared a glove in a game where they just kept throwing it out.
One
and
old
the other
school.
guy, would pick it up and play with it. And I think that's part of what I liked about Ricky. His Hall of Fame speech where he says, he's tried to talk his mom every time he talked about it out of playing baseball. He wanted to be a football player, and his mom said, nope, you're not going to get your brains bashed in. You're going to go play, so mom knows best on most occasions. And he seemed to play with a passion that no one around him could match. His passion for the game, his drive to be awesome. And then, with some guys, I like the level of overconfidence that Ricky has. Deion Sanders was always a guy, Deion was always a guy that I was like, I like that. You can wear that. And Ricky was Ricky. There's tons of really good stories about Ricky just being Ricky Henderson. And I don't think he ever made anybody feel, like he was better than them. I think that it was part of his sort of Ali style persona to own this fastest man, to ever put on cleats. And it's only 65 years old too. That's
that's what hurt the most. I couldn't believe it. I was like, out of all, 65 years old, I can get, if he was older and whatnot, great, fine. You lived your life, you did all your things, but that's the age people retire, obviously not from sports, but the man of steel, not, and I'll also say the man of, like you mentioned, monster amounts of swag at the same time, but
they often talk about
a home run like Ricky Henderson. Just saying, there's that little.
There's a lot of guys if you look at people from that era, there's a lot of people who now talk about the fact that sort of Ricky started drip. Like he was the first guy that wore a bigger chain, and he's the first guy that had the shoes with the tongue over the flat. I used to love those things.
Yeah.
And he wore stirrups, and you know what I mean. Like he just had so much charisma, and he'd look you right in the face, and he'd be like, He might as well have just waved him and like, I'm gonna steal. Like, you go ahead and try and catch me. I'm gonna go.
Yeah. So I heard now obviously there all the wonderful videos of Ricky Henderson, people talking of Ricky Henderson are out, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, but it is what it is. I'm glad they're all being shared. Bert Blev, a fellow Hall of Famer, basically he was pitching to him at one game when he was with the Twins. He walked him, just like so many people did, because that's the other thing that people forget about Ricky Henderson's game. He took tons of walks, Jason. So Blev walks him. Next thing you know, he's standing on third, and he apparently in the middle of the game looks over at Ricky and he goes, "Well, you might as well just take the home. Go ahead, steal home. I can't stop you." Especially with that curveball that Blev had. It's not exactly like he was lighting up the radar to try.
Nope. No, underhand. But yeah, I mean, Ricky Henderson, not unlike Ellie De La Cruz or a few other guys. They Ronald Acuna, Lindor, they make the game more exciting all the way around.
Yes.
Like you said, if they get on base, there's a chance something exciting is going to happen. They hit a ball into a gap.
That's where I wanted to go. So there was something that exciting happened in Blue Jays history, and he was actually the full catalyst of that. So flashing you back to 1993, Jason, that last inning in Game 6 where Joe Carter hits the home run, people forget that Ricky Henderson was the one that walked to lead off that inning and was the catalyst against Mitch Williams that turned into that. So he gets on first with a walk. Mahler hits that little squib over the infield for another single for his World Series MVP, credentials. And then now the table is full on set for Joe Carter. And we all know how the history went and to touch them all on that whole thing. But that inning starts with what ends up being epic levels of just typical Ricky Henderson. That's what he did. He walked, he got hits, he hit home runs. He had so many ways of beating you. And I can't say enough great things about the fact that, for Blue Jays fans especially, we get a World Series because we traded for Ricky Henderson that year.
Yep. Even if you watch that inning, even when he gets on to second, he's inside Mitch Williams' head. Anybody who's got that much speed can offer up so many different things. And if the challenge is, and it almost harkens you back to Major League, like when Willie Mays Hayes is on 2 and, they think about, a slap bunt to score him from 2. And I'll bet you there were times where Ricky Henderson said, if Ricky's on 2, bunt and I'll get home, and he probably could, he probably could, and he would do it. We forget, he had a pretty good arm too. He wasn't a bad, he got to everything.
He was a left fielder, but he was good.
Yeah. He had a good arm and he was
the last point I want to make, and this is for all the youngsters that I know love to listen to our show. And there was a great interview with Ricky Henderson talking about how to steal bases with Harold Reynolds, who was a very decent steal.
That's one of my best. That's one of the best.
You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, it's so good.
The way Ricky saw how to play the game of baseball was so different. And the banter back and forth between him and Harold Reynolds in that interview was wild because Ricky is playing on a completely different game than what Harold was taught. And Harold Reynolds is like, "Oh, yeah, so you're watching his hips, you're watching his feet. How are you knowing when he's going to come over to first base? And how do you know he's going to go toward home plate?" And Ricky goes, "No, you're looking in the wrong place. Ricky looks at this." And he was saying that he looks at the elbows with what the pitcher's doing. And that is how he knew if the pitcher was going to turn quick to first base or if they were going to go toward home. I thought that was mind-boggling the first time I heard it, Jason. And I hope some kids are listening because there's how you steal a few extra bases maybe and get that extra step.
There definitely is that, there's such a method to a guy like Ricky's madness. And, you have to understand that when there are guys that are that cerebral, I mean, it is not easy to steal bases, or people would do it all the time. I mean, we're seeing more and more as we get faster and faster guys that are getting drafted, but it's not.
How many of the rules had to change to get even to where we are now, Jason?
I know. And you're looking at guys who like Ricky, who could see the smallest nuance in if you've got a lefty, like just try and steal a base on a lefty in the majors. Like, these guys are throwing 90 plus with the best arms we've ever had behind the dish. And I mean, Ricky was in an era where the fastball was the fastball. It was there. And he's still, he would steal on lefties, righties, guys throwing underhand, guys,
didn't matter.
Yeah. And
he could almost be handing the ball to the catcher and he'd still be able to freaking steal a base.
He was pretty good. Know, and I think it's one of those things where, like you said, you don't like it to be the time that everyone starts to find out about Ricky is when he dies. But, at least there is now, and it's everywhere right now. And, my kids have been, finding out more and more about it. And it's really neat. And, sometimes you have to think to yourself that we need to maybe celebrate these guys more while they're alive, to make sure that we don't feel like, oh yeah, I remember. Like, that's the one for me, is there's all kinds of stuff that comes up and you're like, oh, I remember that. Oh, Ricky Henderson did that. Like, Ricky, like you said,
how much we like to talk about Tony Gwynn. You and I both loved watching Tony Gwynn growing up, and same thing. God forbid, I'd hate to have these conversations like if we lose Cal Ripken or somebody else. There's so many great talents, and to that point, you mentioned something here that Ricky was really an artist on the base paths. There was nobody that did anything like he did. No. Even the great Lou Brock. Him stealing his record for 10 seasons. That's the other thing that people forget. Ricky played forever. He was still
with every team.
Independent baseball league at 46 and 47. His last Major League Baseball game was when he was 44 years old with the Dodgers, and that was when he stole his last base as well. Just saying.
Crazy. Insane, man. Insane.
So is there anything else you'd like to add about Ricky before we get to our main headline in our quick show this evening?
No, just hey kids, if you are out there, make sure you do take the time to give Ricky his run. I talk a lot about Griff and we talk a lot about Tony Gwynn and a few other guys, but Ricky deserves his run. And just appreciate the fact that you can be an unbelievably important part of a team if you're a good leadoff hitter. Like, I mean, it's so true. Like, get on base. It's just like Moneyball. Why? Because he gets on base.
Yeah. I forget where he ranks, but he's pretty damn high on the most walks in history in Major League Baseball too. It's not just the steals. There's a reason he's in Town. Period. So, tip of the hat. Thank you everything for Ricky Henderson. And obviously best wishes to you and your family and everything in this time of need too. So, all right. So speaking of our family in need, Mr. Lyons, we have gotten a hell of a bombshell dropped on us from the man himself, Vlad Guerrero Jr. And, man, this is a hell of a can of worms that now is in the media. It's out there. The Toronto Blue Jays apparently post near MVP season, so this is a few years ago, but not recent memory, $150 million 7-year deal was what the Toronto Blue Jays offered, apparently, which is an average annual value of about $23 million. Ooh. So, Jason, apparently the prices went up post Ohtani in Vlad's head, and now this offseason it's went up post Soto.
Yeah.
Are you shocked?
Well, I mean, I it's funny when when we started to see this, I don't do a ton of research for this show, but I started to dive into the comparison between the two players. And I mean, the comparison between Vladdy and Juan Soto is insane. I mean, they are virtually the exact same person. The difference is Vladdy wins Gold Gloves. I mean, that's the biggest difference is Vladdy's defense is better than Juan Soto's defense, but their numbers are like eerily similar. And like they're the same age too, aren't they? Are they both 26?
Yeah.
Or 27. So, I mean, they're a really, really, really similar human being. And I mean, I think when we started talking about this, like when we started to see the number climbing up for Soto to the level it was going, I feel like we talked about the fact that we thought Vladdy was probably worth 30 million, like in the reality of things.
But now that was an acceptable number.
Yeah.
It was like, give him here. Stay.
I mean, to try and get yourself north, I guess then Vladdy is looking north of 45 million a season.
Do you blame him?
No, I can't blame him.
Because right now he's going to be 100% worth that. Right now his projected arbitration value. So this is his last season of arbitration. He's a free agent after this coming season, Jason. He's projected to win in arbitration $28.8 million.
Right.
According to SportTrack.com. That's a record if I'm correct, because the only other person I think that's made more money than him on that avenue is somebody like Juan Soto. And there's your comparison block even for that part, right? If he didn't sign what he just did, you're in that same ballpark.
I think this also comes back to our conversation, a couple of weeks ago about where's the ceiling for this? And so I was sitting with a number of friends the other night playing poker, and we were talking about where does this go from here? If guys start to have real unbelievable years, I mean, you're going to start to have where players price themselves out of even being on certain teams. There are teams who do not spend to the cap and they don't have the availability to go past it. They don't have, Yankee money. They don't have Blue Jay money. They don't have Dodger money. So what do we then end up with? Do we end up with a full level of second tier teams that just can't afford these superstars? And then what's the other part of it? 5 years from now, 7 years from now, Juan Soto, and I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but Juan Soto will not be a very good baseball player 5 years from now or 7 years from now.
Well, I mean, I'll give you this bit. I bet you Juan Soto ends up playing fucking first base.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, and they've got to put him in a non-athletic. If he plays, he's got to be in a non-athletic position, and he has to be able to keep up the home run volume, because he's not fast enough he's not, he's no Ricky Henderson, but he doesn't make any impact other than that. And I don't even know if I don't know that he's a generational home run hitter. I mean, he's a good home run hitter, but he's not when we originally
he's going to end up being I'm not saying he's going to turn into Giancarlo Stanton, but I'm worried about that with Soto, where Vlad, I just feel like he's going to find a way to hit one way or the other. I'm worried that with Soto, if the Blue Jays signed him, that he was going to keep walking at the crazy cliff he is, but over time, and probably out of the window here where we're actually competitive, that he would have started to go the other way on batting average and power and stuff like that. I'm not as concerned about that with Vlad, because he's always in the highest of high percentiles in exit velocity and bat speed. So it can't decline at that crazy of a clip as long as he can get the damn ball through the zone. I just don't understand it. But our buddy is back on the chat here, and he was he could care less apparently about the other ones, but there was some recent offers that were, I think, $340 million, I think is the one he's referring to here. That was still in the 7-year ballpark. And like I said, when you talk Shohei and then Soto is the new bar, I think Vlad is right there in that group, or at least damn near close to it. So you got to be thinking your average value somewhere, like you mentioned a minute ago, Jason, in the 40 mil a year. And when you're talking about the guy that's going to be in your face of the franchise, I don't care if he gives the Blue Jays a hometown discount or not. I think you're still talking 40 is the bar you got to get over.
Right. I think the whole thing with Vladdy has to be term. And I think that's where these teams have got to start getting smarter, is term. If Juan Soto wants to make what Juan Soto's making, then great, fine. But why 10 years? What part of the end of that contract is good for anybody? It's not good for Juan.
None.
And I mean, if the Mets are true to the Mets are going to drag him. He is going to be kicking and screaming in that Mets uniform at 40, almost 40. and probably be terrible. And the Mets are going to be like, get out there, like you're our $700 million show, like get out there. And
exactly.
It's the other thing that really disappoints me about that kind of a contract, and sort of probably what we're looking at with Vladdy, is it eliminates one person from coming up to the team for the next 10 years, because you can't afford to not play that guy based on the fact that he's making such a ridiculous amount of money. So, I mean, it's that creation. And then as the contract ages, I mean, these contracts age like bread, not like wine. Like, I mean, they're so bad as you get into the tail end of them. It's
interesting you mentioned that, because I would have said a few years ago, comp to Vlad's contract is Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
That Bryce Harper contract looks like a freaking, toilet paper disposal thing, to your point, from compared to what we're talking about now with Soto money and everything like this. It's night and day different. I think that was a $340 million deal or something like that for Bryce Harper. It sounds like, where you're talking right now, you talk about trying to lock up Vlad at his age 27 season, which he's entering. I think I don't know how many years you do, but you got to talk. It's in the 500 million depending on years, and 600 million depending on even more years.
Yeah,
and guaranteed at this point, he's going to get that from somebody.
Oh yeah,
it's not even a question.
And the most there's two real worries here. One is that the Jays cannot get anything done with him, even if they just say to him, "Look, Vladdy, we'd like to get 5 out of you. We'll max you out. We'll pay you more annually than you would be getting had we go 10 years, right?" So the contract may look a little lopsided on that side of things, but they're also giving Vladdy the opportunity that when he hits 32, 35, however long of a deal they sign, he still has an opportunity to go somewhere else if he wants to, or to continue, continue playing with the Jays if that's what they want to do. But you can't burden these teams with these kind of deals and expect them to have success. It's not possible. The Mets, even if the Mets are good next year, they'll be worse the next year. And when that gets into 5-6 years of that deal, they're going to be garbage. And it happens. We've watched it happen in the majors for the last 10 years.
We watched it as Blue Jays fans, period.
Yeah,
this team was supposed to be competitive, remember? So anyway, Michael's saying the similar things that what we got on here is we'll move to a few of the other comments too, but 500 million to me sounds like the thing, and they do need to just shit or get off the pot, because right now, this team right now, in my opinion, Jason, is not competitive. And you have more trade value of trading Vlad and everybody right now than you do waiting till the trade deadline. You will get the King's ransom still for Vlad, I think, at the trade deadline, but you're talking apples to oranges right now. But nobody's saying trade Vlad. This is a sign Vlad to me, and there's really no other option. But the Blue Jays management is finding a way to everybody's point, finding a way to fuck this up.
Yeah, I mean, it's starting to get to the point where I feel like the Jays management now knows that they've made a big mistake with this, and now Vladdy's got them by the short and curlies, and he's like, I don't care. Like, you guys need to keep.
Have to lose?
Yeah, he has nothing to lose. It's not like he's going to get to the end of next year and no one's going to. It's like you said, like he will get big offers. Now, I was looking today. I can't remember who it was FanSided, I think, that did the a really good article, if you guys want to go check it out on fansided.com, about what they think the value for Vladdy's trade is. Now, if you were to trade him, a lot of people strongly feel you would not get the bounty that San Diego got for Juan Soto, because let's not forget, the Yankees gave up a lot to get Juan Soto, and then
I have your comp if you don't have it in that article. Mookie Betts.
Yeah.
The Mookie Betts trade is still, in my opinion, the bar of what the Blue Jays would have to get back. So remember, that was Bobby Dahlbeck and a lot of guys that are currently the actual new building blocks for the Boston Red Sox. But
and that's why the Red Sox were good this year. I do have one more thing
here that we got to go before, is we got Last Duel Gaming has got a hell of a comment here, because there's some sauce to that. Just a little bit. Is this the illusion of money? We've been runner-up on Shohei Ohtani. We've been runner-up on Juan Soto.
I can tell you,
really maybe money there.
I can tell you this for living in Canada and knowing what Rogers has and what kind of a dynasty or whatever they're trying to create. I mean, it's crazy the amount of money that they have. It's insane the amount of money they put out towards sports. Yeah. And I think we mentioned this last week or the week prior is, they have had these 2 swing and a misses. It did make everybody start to talk about the Jays when they weren't talking about them, or, when the talk was negative because they got bounced out of the playoffs or whatever it was. So it's one of those things where Rogers definitely has the jack to make this happen. Here's my concern. My concern is very similar to that, and I made this point of the Raptors, is they've had their sort of moment in the sun where they've got Vladdy, they've got Bo, they're riding high, everybody's watching the games, the merch is selling like crazy. They launched the City Connect jerseys and everybody loves them, so they can do no wrong on that side of things. So I mean, I'm worried that the thought is, well, we can get by with what we've got. We can get by with what we've got until we draft the next Vladdy or the next whoever the hell it is coming through.
Yeah. And at that point, you might as well just put your eggs in that basket, is I think the Blue Jays fans' mantra. Because at this point, it's like, well, what the fuck are we doing?
Yeah. And Bo, I mean, I'd like to keep Bo. I'd like to keep Bo as much as I think that anyone else would. But
we have that as some chats in the chat too, as far as we got to find a way, because I do think that Bo is going to come back healthy this year and he's going to be something special. But if they don't find a way to Vlad or Bo, maybe is your discount buy, but that's still not building this team up.
Is Bo keeping Bo a J? Is it worth maybe not getting Adames and another good player in a deal? Like, I mean, they're same. They're the same guy. In fact, I'd say Adames is a better player all the way around than Bo. And if that was even a thought, if Milwaukee has even presented that as an idea, I wouldn't even have let the ink dry on on Bo's contract. I would have been like, "See ya, dude, you're gone." And for me, Vladdy's more of the linchpin because he is so identifiable as a Blue Jay right now. Like, he's the cover of the show 24. He's, if they're doing
uniform.
Yeah, in a Jays uniform. And, I thought it was interesting when he cut off the dreads because that was sort of like his thing. And, he's a very marketable guy. He is Canadian, like a lot of people forget that he was born in Canada. And,
Stan was playing with Montreal.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot. And again, if you read those other articles, it is surprising to think that they haven't been able to sign him yet. Like, and I understand that his agent is.
We know the money's there.
Yeah,
that's the problem. Rogers is huge, and it's mind-boggling to me. It's just is this the Moneyball problem? Is this a failure to evaluate talent properly and understand what talent they have to be able to possibly just get this in the right direction? It just makes no sense, Jason.
No, it doesn't.
They have one of the best first basemen of a generation right now.
Yeah. And we had a lot around him too. Like, it's not like he had shit around him. Like, I mean, he had a really strong, for 2 years, we've had a really strong team around him. Now, this year was a really weird. Remember at the start of spring training, they were hitting everything. Like, I mean, the spring training games were insane. They were winning. They were getting 10.
They might have been right, the whole trust the guys thing.
And then it just went right into the crapper. Now, your middle relief not being very good doesn't help. You can't hit away all your problems. But then when the bats went away, they were gone. And if we haven't figured out the fact that Vladdy is a good enough player at this point, that in some cases he almost single-handedly got the Jays, into the playoffs. He almost did. I mean, as soon as he turned it on and he got hot, it was like, okay, they're back. And
Twitch.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's frustrating to hear that they haven't made him a proper offer. It's frustrating to hear that Vladdy. I mean, I guess it isn't. I guess if someone was to say, like, if somebody showed up at your job after you get back from the break and said, "Hey, Craig, we're going to pay you a triple, because the guy over here is just as good as you and he's making that." I mean, you'd be like, "Yeah, I'll take the triple." Like, I mean, I'm not going to take double, to stay here. Because what can you offer him? You can't offer him any more term. I mean, 10 years is ridiculous. So what are you going to offer him? So like I said, I feel like
37 at the end of that.
Their only option is to go bigger on the annual and make it a shorter deal, make it 5 years. But I mean,
or go full Ohtani and just defer a fuck ton of it, whatever it might be. So I got to get to a couple comments here before we wrap up here, Jason. This is a quick abbreviated show tonight because I got the other TNC Random Fandom podcast at 7. So get out there, plug. So I think this one was interesting. Oh, sorry, that's not the right one. I had Alan Gray here queued up, and then somebody else messaged up. Alan, I think you have something to that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because there is something a little fishy. And I wondered how much of this might be because of, does Vlad just want to tell him F off because they have no idea what they're doing in this front office, especially after this year? Something to it.
I don't know. We've ripped on Atkins and Shapiro for 2 years at least, and I do think that we're finally at a time where they both need to go.
Similar in the same fashion. I said this actually through our Twitter account the other day. Very similar in words, so very well played. It's in that ballpark of the off season's just happening. We're really not paying attention.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's very frustrating. And I mean, I hope you guys that are out there, there's how many we have out there? It seems like there's lots of people. Everybody's chiming in.
We've had a lot of people chiming in. 21 live right now, but we've had probably about 50 people in and out.
One of the reasons we wanted to do this was because we both have found this very frustrating as Jays fans, as part of Jays media, and all of the rest of it. Just the whole thing is getting to the point of ridiculousness, where you're just like, why are we not doing something? Like, why is something not happening? And I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is here. I feel like we've had the answers, or what we thought were the answers, a couple of times, and then they just keep surprising us with more crap. And, I don't know.
I think this is the level of more crap too, because I'm sorry to say, the only thing that I would think would really truly appease Toronto Blue Jays fans at this point is by actually getting this deal done with Vladdy. I'm sorry to say that the Blue Jays all of a sudden sweeping in and stealing Alex Bregman from the Yankees is not fucking fixing anything. Because it doesn't move the needle. We're going to get a third guy that can play defense and can hit. Yeets.
Yeah. I mean, it's very frustrating to me. So,
I'm not gonna have any hair left after this off season.
Well, that's why I'm growing it out. So
so it's easier to pull out.
Yeah, easier to get a fistful.
So, anyways, are there any ending notes you would like to mention to Blue Jays fans here? As we're apparently the venting session or the therapeutic couch here on the Jaybird Watching podcast more than we are anything of late.
Yeah,
but we are very thankful all of you are here.
Yeah, keep an eye out for us. We'll be popping in and popping out, I think, over the break. And like I said, it's kind of weird with the days off in the middle, and everybody's got family and other stuff that they're doing. So just and
they're traveling. It's Boxing Day on Thursday. All the good
and
fun
all
stuff.
all of the nation of Jaybird Watching that we seem to be building up here. You guys can reach out. You can comment to us. We are looking forward to the possibility of getting some of you guys and gals on the show. It is something that is out there, and we are more than willing to discuss with you. Reach out to Craig on the Jaybird Watching. He'll put we'll fire up the email machine, and
actively always looking and talking. So me, Jason, and Liz actually get access to all the comments and everything as far as whatever lands on any of our social media accounts. Hit us up. That was the whole point of this whole thing when I started it back in 2017 when everything sucked. We're going back there, Jason. It's feeling too familiar.
Hey, we got the lead singer.
Simon likes the idea of bringing Bregman in, but there's too many dots there for me to wonder if it's serious.
Is that the lead singer of Duran Duran, Simon LeBlanc?
So well played, sir. I see what you did there.
Thank you.
But there you go. And then I just want to say this one, because this one actually would be a nice little holiday present. And I think you were the one that was actually asking for some of these things.
I'm still a big Santander guy. And if we can lock up
front office is a nice cherry on the top.
Yeah, I know.
So anyways, Blue Jays fans, thank you for coming in on a random Tuesday evening here, afternoon if you're over on the West Coast, where Mr. Lyons is currently getting geared up to have a nice little travel. Well played, sir. But to that point, join us on social media wherever you can. We are here to be the barroom chat for Blue Jays fans. When things are good, you'll hear us cheering. When things are bad, you'll hear all the peanuts hitting the TV in the background. This is how it is. So join us wherever you can on social media at BirdwatchingGC and wherever you get your podcasting pleasures. Of course, live Thursdays, usually 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific. This week, the one exception, so don't tune in on Thursday. Have a happy holidays. Wonderful Boxing Day would be our normal recording day. And we will eventually get to that Josh Naylor horrible that just popped into our comment thing, because that sucked for Blue Jays fans. So
I know.
Happy holidays. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you for listening to the Jay Bird Watching Podcast. Please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch at BirdwatchingGC, and our YouTube channel. If you want to support the show and get extra content, please consider joining to our Patreon at patreon.com/birdwatchinggc. Go Jays, go.
Woo!